Okay, tonight I'm going to do a video on the first time that I ever experienced racism. Now, this is a hard one for me. I was really excited to do this because I thought it would bring people together and cause, a few people to have a better understanding on this. So I did a video prefacing this, or like an intro to it, about 6 days ago. And in the first hour or two, it got 106 views. It got 100 views really quick. And then the sound was removed off of it because it violated community standards. There was a little bit of colorful language, but I buried it way deep in some nonsense. So it was about 2 minutes and 40 seconds long. And I guess the last part of the video where I addressed this subject, they felt that it violated community guidelines. I put it on TikTok just to kind of test the waters to see what I could do this. So it kind of discourages me. I was going to do it the day after, but it really just discouraged me and it pissed me off that just the intro to the subject would violate community standards. So I'm going to try to keep the colorful language to a minimum. I'm a I don't know any other way to say that. I'm a hood rat. I'm a thug. I have a problem. I have a dirty mouth. Whatever. So, to keep the colorful language to a minimum, I have this wristband. This is black. Okay? I got another wristband. This is white. And I have this sign that I made. You can figure that one out for yourself. Okay. So let me start this off by saying that I am disabled. I come from a mixed family. I come from a multiracial family. I come from a military family that traveled the world and people married other races of people and all that. And so the whole concept of race when I was a little kid, it was a non-issue. Now I got to put one edit in here because I'm not a good speaker off the top of my head. I'm not only disabled, and I'm from a mixed family and a multiracial family, and not only am I from a military family, but I'm also from an immigrant family, and that's how my family became United States citizens, is joining the military, because that's how bad they wanted to be American. Okay, now back to the original video. I didn't know there was any such thing as race. My grandma, anytime I had questions, I went to my grandma, and my grandma was a wealth of information. She could always explain things to me to where I could understand them. Kind of like Forrest Gump and his mom. Mom always had ways of explaining things to me so I could understand them. Well, that was my grandma. I guess I was special like Forrest Gump. But anyway, so the whole concept of race, it was foreign to me, and it was very confusing. I remember the first time, like when I was a little kid, when a kid that was older than me said that he was black. I did confuse the hell out of me. I was like, what do you mean you're black? Your skin's brown. This is black. You're not black. Your skin's brown. I had to put this little edit in here because it really confused me, because after he told me that he was black, which this is black, he informed me that I was white. I said, how am I white? This is white. Do I look white? It just didn't make any sense to me. Now back to the original video. So I asked my grandma, and she said, well, a long time ago, because our skin is so much lighter than their skin, they just started calling them black. And it was kind of silly, but that it was like that back then, so it just kind of stuck today. I was like, okay. Because like I said, as a kid, I was taught that some people are brown. Some people are a lighter shade of brown. Some people are a beige color. Some people are this. And it's just, people are different. But people are people. And again, race was a non-issue. I wasn't raised in our house it wasn't an issue. I can't explain any other thing that, like, race wasn't a subject that was brought up at my house. Just some people are brown, some people are a lighter shade of brown, some people are beige, some people are just, people are people, okay? A very open-minded family, a very loving family. I have a black uncle, I have mixed cousins, the whole deal, all right? So my mom kind of bounced around and couldn't afford to live in a nice part of town in Atlanta, so she had me enrolled at my grandmother's address in Clayton County. Well, Clayton County is a rough part of the city of Atlanta today, but back then it was the suburbs. It was really nice. In fact, if you were from Clayton County, you were country as hell. It was only 10 minutes outside of Atlanta, but still, it was kind of rural. It was the suburbs. So my first year of kindergarten, my mother drove me to school, and she picked me up and dropped me off. Well, we finally ended up getting a house in that neighborhood, so I started riding the bus. And in my neighborhood, it was the suburbs. We were one of the last bus stops. Yeah. So most of the kids were on the bus by the time I got picked up every morning. So a couple weeks go on, I think it was the first grade, and a couple weeks go on, and everything's cool, and we would go to the bus stop early, because that was the kind of the thing to do in the 80s. You would actually look forward to going to the bus stop, because you'd get to hang out with your friends for 10 or 15 minutes before you had to go to school. So I'm out there, and I'm playing at the bus stop, and I got some black friends, and I got some white friends, and we're out there playing and playing pencil pop, and, you know, playing patty cake, and all this, whatever kids do. So I noticed there was a kid on the back of the bus, and he was like from the other side of the town. He was from the trailer park. He was kind of from the poorer side of town. Never looked down on him or anything like that. He was just he was one of the trailer park kids. Okay, well, anyway, getting on the bus to go home one day, he was one of the bad kids. So he was like, for some reason, the principal or one of the counselors had to escort him on the bus, and the bus was held up, and he ended up sitting by me. And he was like, "You're one of them kids in Catherine Valley, ain't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "I see you every morning. I had to ask you a question." I said, "Okay." He said, "How come you always talking to them, Nick?" I never heard that word before. I said, "What?" He said, "How come I always see you talking and playing with them, Nick?" I didn't understand what he's saying. I was like, "What are you talking about? What is that word, Nick?" He said, "You know, black people. They're Nick." I said, "Well, I ain't never heard that before. How come you call them Nick?" And he told me why. Whatever his damn redneck ass daddy told him, he said, "Black people, they got greasy hair, and they lie, and they'll steal from you, and they're the worst people in the world." I said, "Well, that doesn't make any sense. I know a lot of black people, and they don't ever do any of that stuff that you're saying." He said, "Well, I hate Nick." He said, "In fact, if my daddy ever seen me talking to or playing with any Nick, then he'd give me a whooping." I said, "Well, why would he do that?" He said, "'Cause my daddy told me don't ever talk to no Nick." I said, "Well, I've got an uncle that's black, and I've got cousins that are black, and they don't ever do any of that stuff that you're talking about." He said, "Ooh, you actually got them in your family?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You talk to them, and you got your cousins and stuff like that?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, then you're a Nick lover." Looked at me like I was the plague of the earth. And I said, "Well, I know that stuff that you're saying is true. I don't like what you're saying, and okay." So I get off the bus, and my grandma would watch me for a couple hours before my mom got home from work. And she said, "How's your day, honey?" And I said, "Grandma, did you know that black people are Nick?" And she popped me in my mouth. Not like punch me at the closed fist, but God, your grandma would. Just back. She said, don't you ever say that word again. That was her knee-jerk reaction. That was her reflex. Popped me in my mouth. And I said, ow! And I seen the look in her eyes change. Now looking back at it as an adult, I could see her mind, the gears in her mind turning like, oh shit, I just popped this kid in the mouth. He ain't never heard that word before. And she said, baby, I don't ever want to hear you say that word again. I said, what did I do? She's like, I'm sorry, honey, but that's a dirty word. That's an ugly word. You can't say that. And I said, well, so-and-so told me that on the bus. And she said, who told you that? And I said, da-da-da. And she's like, I don't know him. Does he live in the neighborhood? I said, no. She's like, well, look, sweetie. We live in the South now, and we're not from here. But a long time ago, black people were treated horrible. And our family's originally from Ireland. And Irish people, they were treated horrible too. And they used to call Irish people that word also. In fact, they used to say that Irish people were more worthless than Nick. I don't ever want to hear you saying that word again. And obviously that little kid's daddy is ignorant and he's hateful and he's teaching that kid horrible things. And I don't want you ever to be around that little boy again. I said, all right. And she told me she was real sorry for popping me in my mouth, and she didn't mean to, but she just hates that word so much, and she got mad real quick, and she's so sorry, but she didn't ever want to hear me saying that word again. Don't stay away from those little boys. Those little boys are bad. And she made me some chocolate milk and some ice cream or whatever, and we got over it, and that was that. Well, I got on the bus the next morning. I showed up for school the next morning. I had a new name. With that little kid and all his little redneck buddy and his older brothers and sister, I was now the Nick or lover in the school. I was bullied about that. I was bullied for the next 4 years till I got to 4th grade and I learned to play guitar, and all of a sudden I was cool. I got bullied like hell, man. Like, I'd be on the playground, and his brothers, I was like in 1st grade, and he had brothers that were in 4th grade, and like one day, they called me Nick Lover, and fucking beat me up. Like this one time, they knocked something out of my head on the playground, and when I bent to pick it up, like a 4th grade kid that was way bigger than me kicked me straight in my mouth, busted the inside of my mouth all the way up. It was horrible. I was tortured for the next 4 years over that. Every day at school, I was a Nick or lover. Now, I don't know what the moral of this story is other than racism's fucking stupid. And it confuses me still to this day. Because there's really no such thing as race. There's just genetic differences. And racism is something that's taught. It's not something that's instilled in us. And I advise everybody to get over this shit. Because I still live in a mixed family. I still got a black uncle. I still got mixed cousins. Got little nephews running around that are mixed. Little curly-haired, brown-skinned kids. Got a black daughter-in-law. We're all tired of hearing about this racial bullshit. It's old. Get over it. And that's all I got to say about it. I'm disappointed that the community standard is probably going to remove the audio or violate whatever, and only a few people are going to see this. But I don't care. I'm going on record with it. Fuck it. So see you next time.